Welcome to the first episode of Anime Almanac. It's your boy, Ray, aka the Anime Almanac, aka the Manga Manifesto, aka Young Cup Noodles, aka, I'm just playing, this isn't Jesus and Miro. So, I'm glad you guys decided to join me today. Right now I'm about to break down Ray's Anime Almanac. If you couldn't tell by the name, it's gonna be about anime, and the almanac portion means manga. This podcast and its goal is just to bring the anime-manga community closer, because a lot of people like to just pick anime or manga, but you can't have one without the other. So one episode at a time, hopefully, we'll all be a little buddy-buddy. It's something I'm super fond of since the genre itself raised me pretty much. I learned so many life lessons from anime, and look how I turned out. I hope you all enjoy what I have to talk about. So I'll be having some guests. I'm the only regular on the show because, it is Ray's Anime Almanac. I apologize if I'm saying this too much, but the name is kind of cool. Some weeks it'll just be me. Sometimes I'll have more than one guest, because running a podcast by yourself can get a little boring. So I do want to try and make it interesting for the viewers and the readers and the listeners. We got to be inclusive. I'm not ableist. So that's pretty much the layout of the podcast. The first half, I'm going to talk about anime. The second half, I'm going to talk about manga. In between, I might go off on tangents. Who knows? It's a podcast. Hopefully you guys listen. There will be episodes dropping on YouTube, so look out for those. I will be recording, and I'll also have some shorts, some comedy skits, etc. So make sure you guys follow the YouTube as well. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Anime Almanac, at Almanac Anime. I appreciate you guys. And if you made it this far, let's get it popping. Let's get right into it. So basically, this first episode is going to be a recap of the previous season of anime. If you did not know, anime happens seasonally. So each of the 4 seasons, spring, fall, summer, winter, all that good stuff, you get a bunch of new shows that drop, and we all consume it. It trends on Twitter, like Attack on Titan and whatnot, and then people go and talk about it, and that's pretty much how we get new seasons. Or if the manga is selling really well, we get more chapters. So let's get right into it. We're going to go right into last season. Next episode, I will try to touch on the new season because we're almost halfway into it. So, without further ado, this season's top 5 notable anime, and I'm not including continuations. First off, we're going to have VV's Fluorite Ice Song. Got some big names on there. If you haven't watched ReZero, which I recommend you do, the ReZero studio has animated that. Vivi, pretty much, she's an autonomous android, and she gets visited by a cyborg from the future, and she has to stop an apocalypse. Yep, this sounds a little familiar, like some Ghost in the Shell, a little bit some Terminator. It's oddly like Ghost in the Shell, but I don't want to say that because it essentially sells the writing short. It's a very intimate and personal anime that delivers on the action end, so the visuals are just super visceral. It's beautiful to look at. The action is crazy. Vivi got hands. She be kicking people like judo. It's really insane. And she's a great character to look at. And even though she's a cyborg, she's super personable. And you really get to go see her growth as she's going through all this time stuff, trying to fix the timeline or fix the future. And you start to fall in love with the characters. It's really cool. I really appreciate that anime. Next, we got Don't Toy With Me, Nagatoro-san. This is basically an anime for, guys who want girls to step on them. To each their own, but hey, she's black, so, or she's dark-skinned. Let me rephrase that. So it seemed kind of cool. I watched the first episode, and it's a little strange. I'm not going to hold you. It's only strange because she picks on this dude a lot. It's pretty crazy. And it's actually kind of funny. I'm not going to hold you. And, I lived in New York for a little bit, so if I say I'm not going to hold you a lot, please bear with me. And it's sort of funny. It got some neat sakuga. If you don't know what sakuga means, it means brief moments in anime where the animation is on 10,000. It got some dope sakuga scenes. But it's basically your general skip-based romance anime. It's not really about anything. It just follows these two kids in high school. They meet each other. This dude paints. She walks into the room. She's like, "Oh, you paint?" He's like, "Yeah." And then she just proceeds to stomp him out. Nah, I'm playing. But that's pretty much how it goes. So if you're into girls being mean, I suggest you check that out. Next, we got, one of my favorites. I don't mean to be biased, but we got Tokyo Revengers. This, by far, is probably one of the best new gen anime that came out in the last season. It's insane. And if you've watched and enjoyed Erased, it's sort of similar, but with a delinquent gang touch. They be fighting, they be throwing hands. Sometimes people get jumped. I mean, mob mentality. Then you'll love Tokyo Revengers. It's pretty much about this one guy named Takamichi. He's your run of the muck, little store guy. He works in a movie store. But then one day, he gets pushed in front of a train. And then next thing you know, he wakes up and he's a middle schooler again. And pretty much you follow Takamichi's journey throughout his life and figure out how and why this happened and why bad things keep happening to him. He's really trying to repair his past so he can fix his future. It's really cool spin on the time jump genre, so it's different. You should give it a shot. Next, we got To Your Eternity. If you like to be sad, this anime is for you. Nah, I'm playing, but the first episode is a little gut-wrenching to start off the show. It's pretty much about the mystery of the human condition and how we all become human. So basically, this is how it starts off. This guy, well, he's not even a guy, he's just an entity. He gets brought to Earth and becomes like a rock. It's really crazy. Over time, he's not a rock anymore. He eventually becomes a wolf. Now, bear with me. I'm not going to spoil the episode, but this wolf becomes a very dynamic character. And the way he becomes a human and makes all these friendships and meets all these people, it's very, very heartwarming. And the episodes just get better and better. I promise you, To Your Eternity is something you should have on your list. Now, finally, I mentioned a lot of good bangers, but I gotta mention Odd Taxi. Now, imagine Beastars, but masterfully woven into an anime that brings together a city Sonder. And if you don't know what Sonder means, because this is Anime Almanac, I gotta break it down. Sonder pretty much is the belief and knowledge that us as people, we all are experiencing something totally different in our everyday lives, and you just gotta take that with a grain of salt. Now, back to the anime. So, Odd Taxi is really weird because it's basically about this, I think he's a walrus, and he's pretty much a taxi driver, and a bunch of weird stuff just happens to him, like people hop in and out of his car, cops try and interview him to figure out what's going on, and then it eventually turns into a mystery show. It's pretty dope. You think it's about nothing until it just keeps getting woven into each other. Each episode just makes it so much better. And I know that might not be enough to get you to watch Odd Taxi, but I promise you the ending is worth it. 100%. Especially if you watch Beastars. Like, if you watch Beastars, just give it a shot. You might as well. And now, since I do not have a guest, we are going to just jump straight into the top 5 manga you should read right now. We are now into the manga portion. And after I list the top 5 manga, there will be minor spoilers because I have read everything I recommend to you guys. I would never blindly tell you to just read something. But I will try not to spoil it. And also, before I jump into it, let me just give you guys the anime recommendation of the week so that way I don't spoil anything for you guys. This anime is pretty sad, but it's beautiful at the same time. It follows Toru. She's a girl who lives in a small town. She's homeless, and she meets these two guys. These two guys can turn into animals. Pretty crazy. It's pretty much a show about the Zodiac. And the people she meets are part of this family of humans that can turn into animals when they are touched by the opposite gender. It's pretty cool, pretty strange, but it's beautifully heartwarming at times, but also heartbreaking. Fruits Basket is a 10 out of 10. Please watch the new version if you get a chance. You can also watch the old version, but the new version adapted the entire manga and did it masterfully. So please tap into that. All right. Now we just gonna jump straight into the manga portion. Spoiler warning has been given. Now, the top 5 manga you should be reading right now. Tokyo Revengers. The season's about to end, so after you might as well just hop on, help the manga sales, and then we'll definitely get a second season. It's that amazing. The manga is even better than the anime. Sometimes that's not the case, but for this, it definitely is. Next, we got Tougen Anki. Tougen Anki is pretty much a story about Onis and their perspective battle that they wage against this other race of people. The Onis pretty much are the black sheep of society, but they have a power which is feared by man, which is why they're the black sheep of society. They are capable of manipulating their blood. Yeah, I know. Sounds kind of strange, right? But when you read that first chapter and you see this guy use his blood to, make some chainsaws, it's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. So I definitely recommend you guys tap into that. Next, we got Record of Ragnarok. Now, if you guys saw the anime that was on Netflix, I apologize. It was not that good. It looked like a slideshow. But the manga is 1,000 times better. Record of Ragnarok has some of the best fights that I've seen in manga recently, and it just keeps getting better. And just so you know what it's about, because I can't leave that out, it's pretty much about these people fighting for the sake of humanity. But the people are historic people of history. So imagine, Adam from the Garden of Eden, and characters like Lu Bu of Chinese folktale, and people like that, or Jack the Ripper. It gets pretty crazy, and they have to fight gods. Now, I know what you're thinking. They have to fight gods. How can they win? Seems pretty one-sided to me. There are Valkyries that are assisting them, because the whole reason they're fighting is because these people, which are the gods, they get mad at the humans because, the humans are like messing up the earth and stuff. They're like, okay, let's restart. The Valkyries are pretty much like, no, the humans, they're all good people. We should give faith in them for another 100 or 1,000 years. So they call out Odin, and they're like, okay, so can we use your claws? And there's a clause in their rule book that states if they fight with I believe 5-on-5 or 10-on-10 matches, and they win more than half, they get to live for another 1,000 years. And that's pretty tight, because then you get to call upon all these amazing warriors throughout history, and then you get a history lesson, and then you get a history lesson from mythology, which is insane. And then they fight, but the way that they get a competitive edge is pretty much, the Valkyries are out here turning themselves into weapons. I know that sounds kind of soul-eatery, but it's awesome. The fights are insane. You get really into it. Just wait till you meet my guy Buddha. He's one of my favorite characters. I'm going to just leave it at that. I already gave away too much. Next, we got Blue Lock. Probably one of the best soccer manga that's out right now. If you watched Haikyuu, you'll definitely like Blue Lock. If you watched Slam Dunk, you'll definitely like Blue Lock. If you watched any sport anime, or read any sport manga, you'll probably like Blue Lock. It's not for everybody because the story it has its ups and downs, but the art style is pretty crazy. And the way that they go about playing soccer, insane. So pretty much it has a boarding school vibe. Like all these kids who are like the best soccer players from Japan and its neighboring countries, they go to one place and they're trying to play soccer and you just got to win. These kids have dog mentalities and they're some of the best soccer players I've seen on manga. It's pretty crazy. Now, last but not least, this is a manhwa, so it doesn't really count. But you should read Solo Leveling. Now, before I describe what Solo Leveling is, I gotta tell you what a manhwa is. If you've seen Tower of God, or if you've seen God of High School, I know, right? The source material pretty much sounds the same for a lot of these. So manhwa is just the Korean genre of manga. And usually manhwa is, colored. The art style is a bit less detailed because the color does pick up a lot of the slack where sometimes detailing can like make or break the manga. But manhwa is just, the pacing's different, the paneling is different too. Because usually in manga, you read right to left. In manhwa, you read like you just keep scrolling down. The panels are just, it looks like a racetrack or something. It's pretty crazy. But Solo Leveling is one of the greatest manhwa I've read. Now, I've read Tower of God, I've read God of High School, I've read a few other manhwas that are pretty good, but Solo Leveling handles the action genre so well that there are so many other manhwas that copy Solo Leveling. They're all about the same thing. It's like reading Solo Leveling B, C, D, E. Pretty crazy. Sung Jin Woo is pretty much an adventurer. And the way you like make money in this world, these gates open up on Earth, and you have to vanquish creatures to close the gates. You have ranks A through S. My apologies, E through S. And the strongest people, they don't go through the strongest gates. The gates have rankings too, but Sung Jin Woo, they all go into, I believe it's a C rank gate, but everything gets crazy. The gate changes. I'ma just let you know, once you make it past the slow parts, the manhwa just gets better and better. I call him Sung Jesus Woo. That's all I'ma say. Sung Jin Woo is one of the most dynamic, powerful characters I've read about in a while. This is how crazy the manhwa is. Someone just put me on about a month or two ago. I binged it in 4 days. There's about like 200 chapters. Crazy. Really crazy. And that's all of my manga recommendations for you guys. And now, I believe we're done. Actually, no, I'm lying. We're not done yet. Lastly but not least, another manga recommendation I gotta shoot you guys will be The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Because even though I said top 5, I gotta throw The Four Horsemen in there because if you like Seven Deadly Sins, The Four Horsemen just started. There's only about like maybe 20 chapters. Perfect time to pick it up. You guys really should tap into it. It's amazing. The characters are super likable. It really reminds you of Meliodas a little bit, but the characters have their own just pizzazz to them and their own powers that make it very interesting. And that's pretty much the first episode of Anime Almanac. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Like I said, please follow the Instagram. The Instagram is anime.almanac, at anime.almanac. And the Twitter is Almanac Anime. I will be tweeting on there very, very soon. And I'm going to drop YouTube episodes very, very soon. This first episode is going to drop in August. Every episode is going to drop weekly. And on YouTube, I will be dropping 10 to 20 minute shorts for specific manga and anime. I'm just going to give you the whole breakdown, why you should watch it in the first half. The second half, I'm going to get into it and just tell you guys why I call myself the Anime Almanac. I appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you for joining. I hope you have a great rest of your day or the beginning of your day. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Stay great, stay lovely, stay beautiful. Love and light. Ray out.